Hi, you guys. Welcome back to today's lesson. I'm so excited to see everyone. I'm Miss Martinez. Let me turn on this ring light I bought. Quick. All right. Should be better. So just a quick disclaimer, I am not in my usual filming location, unfortunately. The lighting has been a little iffy, and I'm so sorry about that, but that's something I can't fix. So if it's a distraction, I'm sorry. Just try to ignore it and enjoy today's lesson. We have a fun one planned today. So like I said, I'm Miss Martinez, and today we're going to learn all about polar bears. So our agenda for the day. I have a great book right here, and we're going to read all about polar bears, and we're going to write down notes. So go grab a pencil and a paper and get ready for today's lesson. I'm so excited. I think polar bears are the coolest animals, and I don't even know that much about them. So next, I'm going to tell you your mission today. So today, just imagine you are a zookeeper, okay? So you're about to open a new zoo. Congrats! What a big accomplishment. Your first exhibit that you are presenting is promoting polar bears. Okay, so you're making an exhibit on polar bears. Think about that. First, we are going to create something to inform the public about polar bears, whether it's a song, a paragraph, posters, a slideshow, pictures with caption, anything to get the public more informed about polar bears. So when I'm reading this, write down facts that you would want to hear or that are super interesting about polar bears that you want to have presented to the public. So as a zookeeper, it's your job to inform all these important facts about polar bears to the public, okay? So you can have a speech as well if you feel like that's more appropriate. And next, once you have that all figured out, you're going to start planning your ideal zoo with the correct environment for polar bears to keep them happy. So you're going to think about, do you need air conditioning to make sure that it's super cold? Are you going to have cold water? What kind of cold water do you need? Do you need snow at your zoo? How many polar bears would you like to have at your zoo? What is the exhibit going to look like? Are there going to be a bunch of rocks? Is it just going to be snow and some water? And then also we're going to be talking about if it's going to be inside or outside, which one would be best. And when that comes down to it, after all that, so we're first going to have our way to inform the public, whether it's speech, paragraph, poster, and then our next step is going to write about your correct environment. So for your correct environment, you can have a picture. Make sure you draw it with subtitles or captions or anything to explain what you did and why. Or at the very end, you can draw your picture and then have another paragraph that you could show at your exhibit to explain what you have for your polar bears and why. So we have a lot of writing today, so make sure that you grab some papers. I would grab a couple just in case, and we're also going to be writing a lot of notes, so make sure you have that in mind. Grab some colored pencils, some markers, some crayons, whatever you want to draw and make it pretty. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to move the video onto me and stop. Or I'm going to let you pause the video if you want to learn more about your lesson. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen and put it on me. Okay, so it's on me now. Yay! We are going to read all about polar bears today. So, the polar bear, yay! And they are the master of ice. It's by Valerie Tracky, and the publisher is Charles Bridge. It was copyrighted in 1991. Okay, here's our first picture. It's some polar bears. Have your pencil and paper ready. We're going to be writing down some facts. So the first page is called Endless Winter. A storm howls. Great gusts of wind blow over landscape of ice and snow near the North Pole in the area called the Arctic Circle. The sun never actually rises during late winter. The temperature goes down to 40 degrees below zero. Just imagine how cold that is, 40 degrees below zero. The silvery ice seems to join with the sky. In the distance, the huge shape of a polar bear appears like a ghost through the mist. Tired after its long journey, it stops to rest. Then it moves on again southward over the frozen sea. At times, the huge bear runs along at the speed of nearly 25 miles an hour. It roams a vast territory in search of food. And then in the caption for the polar bear, it says this huge male polar bear weighs almost 1,100 pounds. It has long cat-like claws and strong, sharp teeth. And it's a carnivore. That means it eats meat. It is the largest carnivore. Oops. What happened? Okay. It's the largest carnivore in the world. So that is a picture of one of the polar bears right here. All right, we're going to move to the next page now. Ready for cold. Even in the freezing wind, the huge polar bear is perfectly comfortable. Why, you ask? Well, the long, wet hairs of its thick fur let the sunlight pass through them. This special type of fur lets the warmth of the sun reach the bear's black skin. The blinding glare of the sun on the white snow is not a problem for polar bears. Its eyes are specifically adapted to work like sunglasses and screen out the glare. Cool. So their own eyesight is like sunglasses, so they can see without any problems towards the sun. Its huge paws are as big as dinner plates. The bottom of their paws are insulated with cold but short, stiff hairs that form a non-slip pad. So with their paws, they're non-slip, so they can grab onto things. Each toe has a long black claw as sharp as an ice pick. Polar bears also have good balance. They can stand on their hind legs to look around or sniff the air. Today, a heavy storm has made it difficult to find food, so the polar bear digs itself a shelter. It will stop to sleep for a few more days. So that's something to keep in mind for your zoo exhibit, is that they can dig far into the snow to build themselves a shelter. So keep that in mind. So you have to have a lot of snow. Other adaptations are small ears that lose very little heat and no eyelashes that would freeze in the icy storms. It's pretty cool, but polar bears do not have eyelashes. The bottoms of its big furry feet are like natural snowshoes. The polar bear does not need to worry about slipping on ice. Heavy, long, thick fur and a 4-inch layer of fat under its skin are good protection from the cold. So the polar bears like the cold. They are pretty much protected because of their long fur and their 4-inch layer of fat. That's a good fact to write down. So that's polar bear standing up. They have good balance. That's their paw right there. That's just a polar bear right here. Glare my ring light right here. And that's just a polar bear right there. And they have no eyelashes. Hunting for seals. For 5 days, the polar bear has not eaten. It's very hungry. Suddenly, it stops, its black nose twitching. It turns its head from side to side, catching the scent of a seal miles away. The hunt begins. The polar bear climbs onto a floating piece of ice and then silently slips into the water, causing hardly a ripple. Between each piece of ice, it swims underwater. Each time it comes to the surface to breathe, it is a little closer to the seal. Suddenly, it comes up right beside the sleeping seal. With a single swipe of its paw, the hunt is over. So here's some facts about them. In the water, a seal can swim too fast for a polar bear to catch. So polar bears need to catch about 1 seal a week. A seal can weigh over 50 pounds, which makes it a good meal for a polar bear. And often, Arctic foxes follow behind polar bears and eat whatever leftovers are left. And lastly, polar bears can wait for hours near a hole of ice, waiting for a seal to come up for air. So right here, The polar bear. Right here, a seal. And right here is that Arctic fox that's gonna wait for some leftovers. Okay, so there's some facts for you about what they eat. We're gonna move to the next page. A swimming champion. As water comes to an end, the ice begins to break up. The polar bear does not worry about floating out to sea. It can swim for miles if it needs to. It can hold its breath underwater for several minutes, and its partly webbed paws make it a fast swimmer. When it decides to climb out onto the ice, it grips the ice with its sharp claws, using them like steel hooks. When a wet polar bear hauls itself out of the water, it's a strange sight. Its narrow head, 9-foot-long body, and small tail give it a streamlined shape for swimming. All right, so when swimming underwater, this is a fact that you can write down, the polar bear closes its nostrils by keeping its eyes open. Interesting. In the water, the longer hairs of the polar bear's fur keep the thick fur beneath it dry. So I hope you're hearing some good facts to write down. When the polar bear climbs out of the icy water, it shakes like a dog. That's a pretty cool fact. The water runs out of its fur before it freezes. So that's a polar bear shaking like a dog. That's a polar bear with its eyes open underwater. And lastly, that's just the polar bear. Okay, next page. It's called Two Baby Bears. On this page, I'm warning you, there are a lot of facts that you should keep in mind for your zoo exhibit that you're gonna write, okay? Ready? So on a beautiful sunny day in March, 2 4-month-old polar bears come outdoors for the first time. They were born in a den their mother dug in the snow. So again, they dig in the snow for shelter, and they also dig in the snow for their babies. So when you make your zoo exhibit, it has to be super deep. I'm going to tell you how deep the den is right now so that way you can keep in mind how much snow you're going to need, okay? So their den is 5 feet down, and it's going to be 10 feet across of snow. So down 5 feet of snow or emptiness, and then across 10 feet. So now we're going to read the next paragraph. They were born in a den. Their mother dug them in the snow. There they were, sheltered from the wind and the cold. When spring arrived, the mother bear used her paws like snow shovels to reopen the tunnel doorway. The mother polar bear did not sleep all winter. She hibernated by slowing down her breathing and dozing for about 5 months. So that's a cool fact. They hibernate for 5 months. They'd slow their breathing. Her heartbeat slowed down, but her body temperature changed very little. She did not need to eat during her long nap because she has layers of fat as her food source. In December, the mother polar bear gave birth to 2 tiny cubs. Newborn polar bears weigh about as much as kittens. That's so cool. They are like newborn kittens, and their eyes are not open. After months, the cubs' eyes open, and they spend their days snuggling against their mother for warmth and drinking their milk. When a cub leaves their den, they're typically 20 to 30 pounds. So it's just the baby cub right there, and that's what their den looks like right there. Perfect. Family life. This is another important page. Curious cubs watch carefully everything their mother does. They play games together, rolling, climbing, sliding on the snow. And after a few weeks, the mother is so hungry that she must leave the den and head for the seal hunting grounds. The cubs bravely follow their mother across miles of ice. The mother stops often so her babies can have a drink and take a nap. She sniffs the air for the smell of danger. Prowling wolf packs look for easy prey, such as baby cubs. So wolves look for baby cubs for their meal. For the moment, everything is fine. The mother grunts to tell the cubs that it's ready to move on. So often cubs like to play with their moms, and at night they go to the safety of their den. And during the spring, the family begins a long trip across ice. Each day, the mother gives the cubs time to experience nature and outdoors, and they explore and they learn many lessons. What the cubs eat for their food is their mother's milk, and they do that until they're 1.5 years old. And typically, the cubs will stay with their mother until they are 2 years old. So there's the cubs, just some more pictures of them. Pretty cool. And remember, write your facts. So they drink their mother's milk until they're 1.5 years old. And at 2 years old, they leave. Winter games. After they learn how to swim, polar bears love to play in the water. Even on their first day in the water, they begin to play games to test their strength and to develop their coordination. Although they rarely fight when they are grown, young bears often play by pretending to fight each other. Each one tries to splash and knock down the other cub. The bigger the cubs get, the more fun their water sports become. So as part of the game, so this is part of their games, is they roar and hiss at each other and show their teeth. Oftentimes, they try to be careful with each other as well. So that's just them playing, having fun. So this section is called A Brief Encounter. It is now May, the time when a male and female polar bear meet to mate. Drawn by their scent, two males approach a female. This female has no cubs to care for. All right. So these are just some polar bears. Okay, so now we're going to talk about summertime and how it affects polar bears. So typically, like I live in Arizona, and the summer is really, really, really hot. And that could probably affect polar bears. So when you do your zoo exhibit, think about what you're going to do to pay for the ice and the snow for the polar bears. Are you going to make it an inside exhibit? Make sure that they're super cold all the time? All right, so the sun is coming. The sun looks like a big red circle on the horizon. The ice is breaking up into pieces that drift into the sea. Mother bear must either lead her cubs north or follow the seals and teach the cubs how to get food on the tundra. She chooses the tundra. In summer on the tundra, polar bears become omnivores. So before they were carnivores and they ate meat. Omnivores eat anything that they can find. So they can eat bird eggs, hatchlings, fish, rodents, seaweed, berries, and they often get in the water to cool off because it gets really hot with their fur. An interesting fact you can write down is that polar bears like to keep clean. After eating, the mother will show the cubs how to wash their paws, kind of like a cat. And mother bear also shows them how to eat moss, leaves, and berries. And their white fur in the snow helps them camouflage. So that's polar bear. Bunnies use the snow to camouflage as well. This is some of what they eat, and these are some rodents that they eat. So those are some cool facts about what they do when it starts getting warm. We are running out of time, and so I hope that you have your facts. I'm going to switch back to the screen I originally shared with you guys. Let's share it. Okay, perfect. So again, this is your mission. You can break this up into steps. I highly recommend that. So our first step, think first on this, is create something to inform the public about the polar bears that are coming to your exhibit. You are the zookeeper. So make it fun and engaging and make them want to come. You can write a song, paragraph, poster, a slideshow, pictures. Make sure that you have captions and explain what they're doing. Make the public learn all about polar bears and why they're cool. Talk about their cubs, talk about what they eat, or talk about how they go from carnivores to omnivores. And next, make your ideal zoo with the correct environment. So remember, we talked about how they need the cold. How much ice do they need? How much snow do they need for their dens? Do they like playing in water? Are you going to have water at your exhibit? What are you going to have for their food? What are they going to eat? So carnivores. Carnivore, let me show you the correct spelling. So carnivore, if you want to write this down, is C-A-R-N-I-V-O-R-E, carnivore. That means they eat meat. And remember, we talked about seals are what they eat. So as a zookeeper, are you going to get seals for them? Next, they turn into omnivores in the summer sometimes. So let's go over to that section. So omnivores are spelled O-M-N-I-V-O-R-E-S. And remember, that's they eat anything in this phase. So they can eat berries, they can eat leaves. So make sure you keep that in mind because you are the zookeeper for this amazing new zoo. Well, that is all for today, guys. Make sure that you get started on that. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Miss Martinez, and I hope that you enjoyed today's lesson. Tried really hard on it. Make sure that you guys enjoy it. So I will see you guys another time. Bye. Thank you.